For most of us, the Hawaiian Islands conjure up images of great beauty and tranquility. But their history is anything but tranquil. Born in fire, surrounded by ocean, scene of wars, the Hawaiian Islands provide a vision of the process of creation and destruction. These islands are being both created and destroyed before our eyes.
They began as fire deep in the ocean. Over the eons, they built from the floor of the sea until they broke above the surface and formed land. Eventually, they became the largest mountains on Earth. Measured from the floor of the sea to the top of the mountain, they exceed even Mount Everest. But only the tops of the mountains are visible as they stretch across 2,400 miles of the Pacific Ocean. These are the islands we call Hawaii. Located in mid-Pacific, they were isolated from the land masses of Asia and America by thousands of miles of open ocean. Extraordinary forms of wildlife developed here and flourished for millions of years. The volcanic landscape evolved into some of the most beautiful land on Earth. Today they have become a physical and cultural bridge between North America and Asia. But as contacts with the outside world increase, the creatures that are uniquely Hawaiian are on the verge of disappearing. These islands have become known as the endangered species capital of the world.
When I first came to Hawaii, the place had a feeling of being far away. Paradise is a cliche, but that really was what came to mind. Today I feel like I'm visiting tourists.
It is very difficult to find anything that even remotely resembles native habitat along the coastal areas of Hawaii today.
What nature evolved over millions of years is now changing before our eyes. Today, the islands are exploding with population, business, and with visitors, and the rate of change is accelerating. The natural process of creation and destruction is, in human terms, slow. Over geological time, the islands have gone through a reoccurring process of building and then returning to the sea. A hot spot on the Earth extrudes lava, which builds on the ocean floor until it eventually reaches water level. As the hot spot continues to pump lava, land rises above the sea, creating an island. But the island is anchored to a geological plate which is slowly moving northwest. This motion eventually carries the newly formed island away from the hot spot, and the island stops growing. The hot spot continues to extrude lava to build another island. This process has been going on for some 70 million years. At first, land is composed of nothing more than huge fields of lava. When the lava cools, it's a shiny silver color. A more lifeless scape would be hard to imagine. But life is inquisitive and innovative. Seeds arrive, carried by the jet stream or by seabirds. A small plant erupts from a fissure in the lava. As wind and water break down the lava formations, vegetation grows lush and varied. In the sea, too, life begins to seek out niches in the newly formed world. Hardy Jones has been filming and diving these waters for over 30 years. Film producer Julia Whitty has been coming here for more than a decade.
Diving in the Hawaiian Islands is like flying over the primordial earth. Hawaii has some of the clearest water in the world. Sometimes you can see 200 feet. You drop down onto lava that may be less than 100 years old. The interaction of hot lava and cool sea sculpts a staggering array of rock formations. You actually see this young world being colonized by life. You swim through lava tubes that not long ago were huge bubbles of volcanic gases. What was so recently molten rock is now being covered by coral and plant growth. Fish find homes here. And bigger fish come to prey on them. As you dive, you can hear the songs of humpback whales reverberating in the water. We've often run into dolphins as we dive. These wonderful marine mammals are drawn here by the huge populations of fish that have grown up around the islands. Marine life in these islands is still thriving.
The largest island of the archipelago is called Hawaii. This is the island local people call the Big Island. It's the youngest of the Hawaiian Islands, only 800,000 years old. On the southeast corner of the Big Island, lava still flows from the hot spot deep within the earth. The Big Island is getting bigger.
The only way to really get a feel for the size of this place is by helicopter. The landscape is so different, it's hard to escape the thought that you're flying over a different planet. My eyes are drawn to these points of glowing lava. It's mesmerizing to look at them and realize they're coming from the core of the earth. The lava flows destroy large areas of forest, but somehow it doesn't seem so bad when it's nature's process at work. The march of the lava is inexorable. It covers subdivisions, leaving a pathetic trace of human intentions. It covers national park visitor centers. And eventually it hits the sea, where it explodes into black sand beaches. Back on the ground, the work of the volcano dwarfs human scale. Again and again, roads in this part of the Big Island are covered with lava.
The island closest to the Big Island is Maui, thought to be about 1.3 million years old. The last eruption here was in 1790. Soon after land erupts out of the Pacific, wind, rain, and seas begin their work. The flow of water etches valleys into the lava rock. The islands become more craggy and lose the shield volcano shape. Finally, the mountains are worn down, and valleys are created, like these, now called the West Maui Mountains.
The dominant feature on Maui is the mountain called Haleakala. Looked at from below, it appears to be a shield volcano. But from the air, you can see that the dome has collapsed, making a crater as big as the island of Manhattan. The chopper fights its way up the slopes. Then you break out over the floor of the crater. When you go over that lip, your stomach falls a couple thousand feet. But even this may not be the most spectacular view of the place called the House of the Sun.
But when it does, it's one of the greatest sights on Earth. From the top of the mountain, you fly down through the craters. It's not hard to believe you're flying over the surface of the moon. But we're not. This is the inside of Haleakala Volcano, a huge crater more than 7 miles across. On the north side of the mountain, you fly through a huge gap in the crater's side, which illustrates how powerful the forces of erosion are.
The Hawaiian islands of Oahu and Kauai are even more sculpted by erosion. Kauai is thought to be more than 5 million years old. Beyond Kauai lie the northwest Hawaiian islands, each more eroded than the last. Over eons, time has worn the mighty mountains down to simple sandbars, surrounded by fringing coral reefs. The first human beings to arrive in Hawaii came from the Marquesas Islands about 600 AD. On their arrival, they found land areas that were well forested. Seabird colonies were abundant throughout the islands. Over the centuries, large centers of human population grew up around present-day Kona, Honolulu, and on other large islands. The spread of this new species created problems for the endemic creatures of the island. But far worse than the humans themselves were the animals that accompanied them. Craig Harrison is a lawyer who has worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and many environmental organizations.
When humans came, the process of extinction of what we consider to be the natural Hawaii fauna, let's say, of the last 2,000 years, accelerated dramatically. The Hawaiians brought with them a number of animals and a number of plants, primarily for food purposes. They brought dogs, they brought probably accidentally a Polynesian rat, they brought chickens, they brought pigs.
The first Hawaiians built fish pools and had a system restricting fishing in particular locations. This system of kapu protected certain resources for the ali'i, or nobility, and may have served to protect resources in general. But the early Hawaiians were not the great conservationists some would have us believe.
They probably ate virtually any bird or bird's egg or bird's chick that they could lay their hands on. And as a consequence, quite a number of the Hawaiian birds went extinct from the period of about 500 or 600 AD till the time that James Cook came in the late 18th century.
The first Polynesians also brought plants from the South Pacific: coconuts, sweet potatoes, taro, and bananas. They began large-scale agriculture, which changed the habitat radically. What the ancient Hawaiians had started, Westerners accelerated. By the middle of the 19th century, virtually all the forests had been destroyed for grazing animals.
With the coming of the Westerners then, Hawaii changed, of course, dramatically and probably forever, in that there were introductions of the whole idea of massive agriculture, sugarcane and pineapple, and they just took up huge tracts of land and really changed the face of the habitat in Hawaii. Furthermore, in the forest areas, they began logging on a large scale, probably for the first time. The end result of all the introductions of the various birds, the rats, the mongooses, has really been the demise of a substantial, or extinction of a substantial number of the Hawaiian native birds.
In 1898, the United States annexed Hawaii, and 2 years later, the islands became a territory. Agriculture expanded, and the first tourists arrived. A few hotels sprung up at a sleepy little place called Waikiki. But the human impact on Hawaii that had begun as a trickle was about to become a deluge. World War II brought a massive increase in human activities in the Hawaiian Islands. Tourism developed into a vast industry as visitors came to the islands for the warm weather and the ocean. In the world of water sports, entrepreneurs offered something for everyone. But all this activity is not without cost. One of the major attractions to the island of Maui are humpback whales, which come here each winter to mate and give birth. But there is so much human activity in the water today that the whales are being driven from many of their favorite locations. One of the chief attractions to the Hawaiian Islands was the feeling that they were remote and had a culture of their own. But that too is in danger of disappearing, not just in Waikiki, but in the outlying islands. The airport on Maui is now being converted to receive jumbo jets direct from the Orient. It has been estimated that a single 747 from Japan brings $1 million to the island's economy. By 1989, the once languid island of Maui was attracting 2.4 million tourists, almost as many visitors as Honolulu. Unless there's a radical change of course, it will soon become a 24-hour world of discos, delis, high-rises, life in the fast lane. T-shirts will be king. A lot of money will change hands, and the Maui that was called paradise will be gone. But there are some areas as yet remote from the developers' earth movers. These are the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. They span more than 1,000 miles and have names like French Frigate Shoals, Gardner Pinnacles, Laysan, and Midway Islands. They are administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and are strictly protected. You can't even go there without a permit, unless you're an albatross or a tern or a monk seal. There are 18 species of bird on these islands, including the Laysan albatross. More than 500,000 of these birds congregate during nesting season in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. But these islands are only recently protected. During the 19th century, whalers plied these waters and frequently came ashore looking for meat. They made quick work of many of the monk seals, turtles, and birds. Fearing complete destruction of the wildlife of these islands, President Theodore Roosevelt created the Hawaiian Island Reservation in 1909. Despite these efforts, 3 unique bird species went extinct due to loss of habitat. These beautiful birds, which will never again be seen on Earth, are the Laysan rail, miller bird, and honey creeper. The impact of that early human destruction is still evident.
There are places on the Kona coast of the Big Island where people 25 or 30 years ago, remember there were all kinds of native Hawaiian forest birds there, which suddenly you go looking today and you can't find them.
More and more today, wildlife and nature seem so fragile against the overwhelming power and numbers of human beings. But if there's anywhere on Earth that nature seems able to fight back, it's here on the Big Island of Hawaii. It's comforting to know that as human beings are putting their mark on the land and creatures of Hawaii, nature is constantly rebuilding. So, in a geological time frame, the process of evolution simply goes on. But for those who are alive in Hawaii now, the fight to preserve these islands as we've known them has reached a crucial stage.
In no place on Earth can we better see the process of creation and destruction than in the Hawaiian Islands. Massive volcanoes create new land before our very eyes. Wind and waves and rain wear down these creations. These changes take place over eons. nature can adapt and renew itself to the pace. But since the coming of man to these islands, the rate of change is accelerated. The tranquility we once sought is endangered by the speed of our modern era. If it turns out there is no place for paradise in Hawaii, perhaps it is because there's no longer any place for paradise in the human mind. This is Ted Danson. Thank you for joining us.